Minecraft mods are not scary. At least, that's what I thought. The last video I made on the subject focused mainly on vanilla Minecraft and how it captures horror well despite not being a horror game. And in it I covered a few mods to highlight my point, but many of you responded with mods you thought were scary and not just trending slop. So today I'll be extending my essay to continue our exploration of horror and to figure out what exactly makes an experience terrifying. And this is a sequel, so please watch the first one if you haven't. It'll make a few of my points make more sense. Or don't. It's your choice. You can somewhat consider this a mod review, but like the previous video, it's more of a horror essay using Minecraft as the framework. We'll first be covering the creature mods, where the source of horror is a spooky guy. Then we'll look at Biome Mods, and finally we'll be going deeply into the broken script, which I sunk over 10 hours into for this video because so many people commented about it. And yes, this is the one that got banned, but I'll explain why later. But without further ado, let's get straight into the monster mods and see if any of them were able to scare me, horror connoisseur that I am, or is my title just clickbait? I did cover the original Cave Dweller mod last video, however a lot of you brought up the fact that there are other versions of the mod that are better, with improved behaviours. With this in mind then, I tried out Cave Dweller Evolved. I won't repeat myself too much from last video, but I do like the premise of the Cave Dweller and I understand why he reinvigorated the horror scene. There's something inherently scary about the caves in Minecraft. Down here in the darkness we are out of our element. We need torches and lamps to light our way through. We need to constantly watch our backs for monsters crawling out of the void. These vast chasms were not meant for us to maneuver, and it makes you wonder what kind of beast would be capable of dwelling down here. So the Cave Dweller, and any mod that incorporates caves, has the unsettling nature of the environment going for it. In horror, placing the player out of their element is a great technique, and placing them against an enemy in its hunting ground is an extension of this. The added behaviours in Cave Dweller Evolved really improved the mob, I think. It was no longer oogly scary man spawning behind me. I now had a chance to run and hide from him because he didn't see me right away. Good horror has to incorporate some form of response from the player, as I've gone over numerous times. Running, hiding, or fighting. And giving me more time before the dweller notices me is a great addition to enable my response. In this clip I retreated and he scrambled away instead of screaming and running at me. And in another he was going for a swim? So I could have run, but I wanted to see if I could fight him and I failed, but he didn't kill me instantly, which is good. And in this encounter I was able to use lava to trap and kill him. A basic rule of thumb is that if there's no way for me to escape an encounter, I should be able to fight back, so this is good. When your horror is based around one scary dude, you can't have it instantly kill the player, it just doesn't work. Think of all the great horror villains you know. Do they eliminate you in one touch? No. And they still remain scary. Don't mind me as I again bring in the wonderful Mr. X. You asshole! The other stalkers of Resident Evil also work for this point, think Nemesis and Jack Baker. There are the occasional scripted instant death events, but in a linear game where you respawn at the beginning of the level, they can work. It can't work, however, in an open world sandbox where instant elimination can completely interrupt the gameplay. So I'm glad that in this version of the Dweller, instant death is not in the equation. It turns encounters into intense survival situations. Your choices and your reactions will affect the outcome. That's also a key aspect of good horror, and it's seen in the Deep Dark as I covered in the last video. You are the one who spawns the warden, and in other stealth-based games, you are the one who runs out of the hiding spot prematurely, alerting the monster to your presence. Your actions have consequences. Your hesitation, your impatience will make you suffer. But the thing is, and this point is really, really important, most consumers of horror don't want to be disturbed or terrified. They want to be thrilled. General audiences don't want fear to have a lasting impact. They don't want to think back to a game and feel uncomfortable. They want to laugh and get excited. And I think the Cave Dweller captures this point very well. It's not extremely atmospheric or intense, it doesn't disturb you deeply. You don't walk away horribly affected by this beast, the memories won't linger and invade your very nightmares. And yet, it's still really, really popular because it's thrilling, it's exciting, it makes your nerves jump, at least until you get used to it, which I did pretty quickly. And this can be an issue when developing horror. Should you appeal to the general audience, or should you appeal to proper fans of fear? And at the end of the day, it's your decision, but if you appeal to general audiences that want thrills and rollercoaster rides, you aren't really going to get a great horror experience. But that point aside, I think the Cave Dweller does have its place in the horror scene. There's no super loud, in-your-face jump scares, and the ambient build-up is actually quite good. The sound effects are great, and there's less of them in the evolved version, which works that dread. You're not sure when you're going to see him, hear him, and you're not sure what he's going to do. The thrill most people look for is provided by the Cave Dweller, but I don't think it's anywhere near that upper echelon of horror. And to be honest, most mods that just add a scary mob can't reach this echelon because it's simply not enough to form the ambience and atmosphere necessary to create a truly scary and lingering horror experience. And another point, if you're someone who likes mining, this mod will quickly turn into a chore even with the improved behaviours. There's no way you can avoid it spawning as far as I'm aware, unlike the Warden. Thus, the initial fear will soon fade and all you're left with is an annoyance when you're down looking for diamonds. If I were to improve this, I would maybe add a crafting recipe for some kind of repellent. Let's say the Dweller is averse to redstone. It could be anything, but let's go with redstone. The ore itself can help you, lighting it up will temporarily make the Dweller flee, but not permanently. To stay safe, as the mining friend, you can craft redstone torches which the Dweller will put out to up the ante, or beyond that for even more safety, a redstone powered headlamp or, something. I'm just throwing some ideas out there, you guys may have even better ones, but that's just my thoughts. I haven't had the chance to play the Bedrock Cave Dweller though, I am aware of it, and many of you commented about its quality, so please let me know in the comments if it's a huge improvement. That's all I have to say for the Cave Dweller though, so let's move on and cover the next mod. Now, as I just covered, Cave Dweller isn't the peak of horror or anything, but it has its place, and I do generally like it. The Knocker, on the other hand, is just, I don't really know how to put this nicely. I've discussed jump scares previously. They have their place. When they're used sparingly and used after fair and earned build-up, they can be great. They can be an alleviation of deep dread, paranoia, and atmosphere. Random jump scares like the one the Knocker threw at me, for example this one, jump scare warning guys, they're just terrible. I physically rolled my eyes and it made me mad actually. It offended me. It was not earned. It was just rubbish. I do appreciate some aspects of this mod. I like the door opening on its own, but when that's the only atmospheric event, it gets boring and it's not enough to develop proper dread. It's also good that the enemy doesn't rush me day one, but these jump scares annoyed me so much that I'm really struggling to be nice to this one. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, that's all I can say because every time the Knocker spawned, my game crashed. Apparently it's a known bug, I couldn't figure out how to fix it though, so if you guys have experience with this mod, comment below and let me know how the actual mob acts. Is it any good or is it instant death, oogly boogly man? Moving on to the next mod, I did like this one quite a bit, though I wouldn't call it scary. The premise of this mod is somewhat similar to the extension of the Pale Garden which I suggested last video. The Wilted is a monstrous relative of the Creaking which comes out at night. The added sound effects were great the first time I heard them. I froze up, it got me pretty good. And before we get into the mod, let's emphasize the point of these sound effects a little, because if playing these mods has taught me anything, it taught me the deep importance of sound design. I did mention it in part 1, but I didn't give sound design enough credit. Taking my headphones off makes playing horror so much easier. Try it. I promise you whatever fear you're feeling will lessen instantly. Intimidating sounds can deepen dread and also clue the player into an incoming event, which allows them to form their response, to run, hide, or fight. But if sounds always come before an event, it can be a detriment because the horror will get repetitive too quickly. Adding a bit of variation and randomization with the sounds is good, I feel, and the same idea can be applied to the monster's behaviour. Adding randomization to the Cave Dweller improved him greatly, as I've covered. A lot of this is a balancing act. Less is more, but sometimes it's not enough. Jump scares can work, but typically they don't. And even then, this is all my subjective opinion. I'm well versed in horror, but don't take all these words as fact, okay? They are far from it. The sound design was good, and this fog rolling in was also a nice addition to build atmosphere. The thumping was another thrilling addition to the mob. It reminded me of Deerclops, who I've glazed already. But then he spawned, and this happened? I was very lost and, confused. He lunged at me and destroyed me like a pro wrestler instantaneously. I stood no chance at all. He also didn't move upon my death, so he was camping my bed like it was my duo's reboot card. I had to speedrun the creative command, which is just annoying, not scary. This torch mechanic is fun, but I'm not sure I would have figured it out in survival. He covered up my light so fast that I didn't notice it was even happening. Maybe over more encounters it would have clicked like Sekiro, but it wasn't obvious enough, in my opinion. So I moved on to a new world and prepared myself to properly respond to this guy via a hidden skill I like to call creative mode. I waited and waited, and once he arrived, I took it upon myself to test all of his behaviours so I could fairly evaluate him as an oogly googly scary man. Somewhat like the Warden, the Wilted is supposed to be a force of nature, a natural disaster you have to survive, not fight. But his trigger has nothing to do with the player, unlike the Warden, which you have to seek out and spawn yourself, which is, in my opinion, a more engaging application of horror. I like to have some accountability in this situation. So if you can't fight, can you run? No, as far as I was able to tell, you can't run from this thing because it runs very fast after you and even teleports over to you. And alongside that, it has a long grab animation to pull you over. It definitely would have been better if I could run, at least for a little while, to get myself together like you can with Deerclops. So, can you hide? Kind of. I tried hiding in this igloo for a while and it was really chaotic trying to clear all my torches. This wasn't scary or disturbing in the slightest, but it was fun. I was kind of wishing I could invite some friends because I knew this would be chaotic as hell with a group. He then thumped over and started breaking my igloo down, and out in the open I realised I had a cooldown on my torches, which adds to the threat. I think it's a good addition. I desperately ran into the next building and the process repeated itself. I actually lit the building on fire to keep him away from me, which seems to be the best tactic because he can't put it out quickly like the torches, but then it became day and he ran off, so I survived, kind of. But what can we learn from this mod, Dr. Cupcake Sauce, I hear you all asking? Well, basically, the scary mob shouldn't feel like a boss fight. It's exciting and fun, yes, but it's not disturbing in the slightest. The lead up is spooky and the sound effects are good, but when the wilted spawns, it feels like I'm surviving a weather mod, like a hurricane is sweeping through my village. I don't feel like there's something unknowable coming after me. I don't feel like an entity is watching me. There's no lingering dread. I'm not delving into the unknown with my heart in my throat. There's just a big mystical tree dragging me around and I'm laughing my ass off trying to repel it. Overall though, I do like this mod. It was a fun experience and the initial atmosphere before it arrived was unsettling, but the actual mob experience is nowhere near terrifying. I would definitely suggest it for anyone looking for a chaotic experience with friends, but not if you're looking for a deep horror experience. I think it's worth repeating here that achieving that experience is kind of impossible with a single mob. Every mod that adds one singular oogly googly man have interesting atmospheric elements, but all the ones I've played have fallen short of disturbing gameplay. Because with a single mob, a single entity, you'll get desensitized quickly, especially if you've played a lot of horror. Like I said with the Cave Dweller, the general premise is good and full of dread, but it doesn't last for long. It becomes more of a roller coaster ride. It's thrilling for a while, but you don't leave that ride haunted by what you've experienced. Let's move on to another extremely suggested mod called From the Fog. This mod implements Herobrine in a more subtle way than the mod pack I played in part 1. It tries to be more accurate to the legend and just generally subtle in its approach. Trying is very different to succeeding though. Nothing happens in the first 3 days, which is okay, but as I knew I was delving into a horror experience, I would have liked a few strange things, even if that just means a few unexpected cave noises. Because the first thing I saw that happened after the 3 days was this. I'm glad there was no loud noise, but I'd still consider this an unearned jump scare. Because there was absolutely no build-up. Nothing happening at all does not count as atmospheric development. And I'm sorry, but Herobrine randomly appearing behind you is not accurate to the legend. The most fun thing about Herobrine is that I swear I just saw him moments, not the "oh, I just saw him" moments. Because as I said last video, actually adding him tends to ruin him. Therefore, those who want to develop Herobrine mods have everything going up against them. I did like seeing him stalking from a distance, that is true to the legend, but then he bounds away all jolly and it leads to some funny looking animations like this one where he's jumping into a wall and then just disappears. Bye, I guess. Him appearing at the foot of my bed is a little bit concerning. I guess it just depends who you ask for their opinion on that, but I wouldn't consider it scary. If you're going to develop a Herobrine mod, you need to keep in mind what I have said. The idea of seeing him is scarier than actually seeing him. Just as a personal anecdote, to this day, I have a childhood memory of seeing a figure walk behind a tree and disappear. I was convinced it was Herobrine, and I was terrified in that instant. To this day, that feeling lingers with me. I have such a vivid image of this event, but logically, I know it couldn't have happened. But horror doesn't abide by logic. Being disturbed is typically not a logical emotion. When I'm staring at that dark corner of my room, my fear is not dictated by logic. I know nothing will emerge from that corner, no hand, no person, no face, but I'm scared anyway. I'm going to allow my first guest on the channel, Alan Wake, to explain this concept for a moment.
Stephen King once wrote that nightmares exist outside of logic, and there's little fun to be had in explanations. They're antithetical to the poetry of fear.
Herobrine does not logically exist. You don't need to make him logically exist. And if you want to make a mod based on him, it needs to be absurdly subtle. From the Fog added player noises nearby, and I loved that. It was my favourite part of the mod, and it did get to me. But if you want to make Herobrine really work, you need to have distant figures disappearing behind trees, just an instant that makes the players doubt themselves. You need to see white eyes in the darkness of a cave. You need those player noises nearby, someone mining, getting closer and closer until it stops, for seemingly no reason. I personally think Herobrine works best as a more alternate reality game horror experience, like the Broken Script, because ARG horror doesn't need to abide by the rules of the game it's placed within. The creature design doesn't need to suit the environment because it's inherently unsuited, inherently out of place. You can take a Herobrine mod further than the subtlety I mentioned, but it has to be taken out of the bounds of Minecraft itself. Paranoia in horror is linked to dread, but the two differ somewhat. Here's some definitions on screen to add some pretentious value to the video, but I'll explain what I mean in my own words as well. Dread can come from many things and is key to good atmosphere. You're terrified to take another step. You're constantly on edge, expecting something terrible to happen in-game. That build-up of dread allows for fair jump scares to take place, but it's all within the realm of the game. You're in the mindset of your character, invested in the virtual experience. This alone can be scary and disturbing. Again, look at my beloved Mr. X, but adding paranoia can completely change the experience. Because paranoia goes further. Paranoia steps out of the game, of the video, and takes hold of your actual body. Something in that cave is watching you. Something is behind you. Not just in the game, but in real life. You feel as though that presence has somehow made itself corporeal and stands now, silently, waiting for you to turn around. ARG horror works closely with paranoia, not just dread, because it has a link to our reality. Whatever is in this game or video or art piece wants to get out and wants to use you to do so. As I mentioned, the Broken Script is largely ARG based, and I think Herobrine should be too if people insist on making him an actual thing. And if you go this route, I think you could effectively ramp up his behaviour and make him into a real threat. He's not just spooky Minecraft Steve anymore, he is an entity that haunts the game, spreads through your worlds like a virus looking for a way out. Leaves signs addressed to you, the player, not the character you're playing as. Crashes your games with unsettling final frames, runs at you from behind until you turn and see nothing. Takes control of your character even, renders you helpless in this game you thought you had control over. Don't overplay his image. Don't make him constantly appear behind me. Make me feel like he's behind me in real life, right now, willing and desperate to swap places. I visited 2 Biome Mods, which I thought were worth mentioning in a small section. Environment is a huge factor in the building of atmosphere, so whilst these mods weren't overt horror experiences, they still have creepy aspects which are worth considering if we want to understand horror, and if we want to understand what makes an effective mod experience. First off, let's cover the Undergarden. This mod highlights how important it is to make the scary mobs fit into the art style of Minecraft, because I think most of these dudes work well within the style and look like something I'd see in future updates. Yes, they're strange creatures from another dimension, but they still look like they belong in the game. This, therefore, improves the experience. It doesn't feel glaringly like a mod, it feels like something I could really experience in vanilla. Like the Nether, which isn't something I delved into last video, I don't even know why guys, I think I just forgot the Nether existed, but like the Nether, this dimension also has great horror elements. It unsettles you through otherworldly visuals, and by placing you in an environment you're not suited for. Like caves too, to survive in this place we need to use tools and move with caution. You don't know which enemies are going to come after you, or which hole in the ground will lead directly to your death. When developing an environment of fear, you need to keep the player on edge, present them with unknowns and keep them cautious. So when I do stumble across this disgusting fleshy biome, I'm hesitant to be on the ground. I'd much rather stay safe on the treetops than face whatever enemies are lingering down below, because down there, I am not welcome. This mod was nowhere near terrifying, but it did unsettle me pretty well, especially with the enemies of this area, these strange, rotted creatures. Their sound design was also creepy. I'll play a little sample for you now. But beyond that, I'm not going to explain more about the mod because this is a video focusing on horror. It was fun to explore. If you're looking for dimensions to add to your world, I would highly suggest this one, but that's all for the Undergarden. In this mod, dimensional pockets are added, and you can access them through portals you find in the overworld. There's a large range of dimensions you can find, and in them there's some decent loot and unnerving visuals. If you die though, you get sent to Limbo, which is where the horror shines. Along with the visuals in Limbo, it had some great auditory flares. Even though nothing was coming after me, I had the deep sensation that something was. I was just waiting for one of these entities to morph into something terrifying. I think the other realms were similarly well made, though they were less scary. Most of them gave off this liminal space vibe, which has been popular in horror recently, but it is overdone, and not many get it right. Adding a violent dweller entity to the backrooms ruins what the backrooms is. The whole idea is that you feel that dreadful feeling that you're not alone, and maybe you aren't, but it should never be confirmed to you via oogly googly scary man. And this mod doesn't do that, so I'd say it does the liminal thing very well. The only quote-unquote enemy you see is the monolith guys, which are intimidating and scary, but they don't attack you or get dumbed down into some slop dweller design, so I like them. However, I do think the Limbo is overused. I did enjoy this mod, and I did enjoy exploring these strange little realms, but it did become tedious, and the atmosphere was lost after the 20th time I fell into the abyss and had to jump around to escape. It is creepy and well designed, but because I'm constantly being thrown in here due to the trap levels, it loses that spooky factor way too quickly. Remember my point about overplaying your hand in part 1. It's very important that you don't. As per the last biome, I won't go deeply into the rest of this mod as it isn't inherently horror. I think the main draw actually is the fact you can make your own pocket dimension, and it adds a simple but fun mechanic to the overworld. I think it does subtle horror well, and if it wanted to go full horror, it could definitely do so. There is a lot to learn here in terms of environment. Now these biome-based mods are way less popular than the creature mods because the dweller is what blew up online, not some scary forest. I only played these two, but I'd like to give an honourable mention to Alex's Caves, which you guys mentioned a lot. Unfortunately though, my dying laptop could not run this mod. It literally felt like it was about to explode, so yeah, I wasn't going to test that. When I can afford a PC later this year, you'll hear my opinion, but for now, I'll say, yeah, it looks cool and I wish I could try it. Let's move on then to the final section of the video where I'll cover the Broken Script, a mod that's gone through a bit of controversy but is still highly recommended by pretty much everyone. Before we get into this, now's a good time to remind you to subscribe and join the Discord. Please do if you're enjoying the video. And check out the Twitch as well if you're feeling generous. We'll be doing a Subnautica playthrough at 1,000 followers, so I think someone is going to piss my pants during that. I don't know who, and I'm not going to point fingers, but I'm saying it's a real possibility. As I mentioned in the Herobrine section, this mod is ARG based. I think it tries to place you in the shoes of an ARG protagonist, someone who's picked up a copy of Minecraft that's broken. And to preface this before I go any further, yes, I thoroughly enjoyed this mod, but it's not without its flaws. I'd also like to quickly go over why it got banned, though it may be back up by the time this video comes out, so let me know in the comments if it is. Basically, as an ARG experience, the developer made it so the game can mess with your computer. Not in any malicious way as far as I'm aware, but it could add text files and shut down your computer entirely. Neither of these things happened to me, but it is an issue because Windows closing improperly can cause problems, and you could have also lost documents or projects that went unsaved in the background as you played the mod. I personally don't have an issue with adding text files as an ARG experience. I actually think it's a cool addition. But yes, you don't want to lose documents or have your Windows messed up because of a Minecraft horror mod. I know there's been a lot of fear-mongering and clickbaiting due to this ban, but that's the actual story as far as I'm aware. If I'm missing anything, please let me know. I could be out of the loop. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into my personal experience. This mod almost perfects the atmospheric build-up that I keep referring to. You know from the get-go that something is wrong as you get the message that Null joined alongside a cave noise, but then that's that. From this move alone, dread has been enabled and you're on edge constantly waiting to see what this Null does. And alongside this initial joining message, you have other things presenting the idea that something is wrong, something's broken. Take the literal loading screen, for example. This was so well done that it made me wonder whether it was the mod or my game had actually messed up somehow. It took me out of the game and laid the groundwork for paranoia, not just dread. There's also the strange mixture of old and new textures in the game and a wide variety of events that can happen. A few that I experienced include this behind you moment, water being placed randomly, villagers being named testificate, night randomly descending. This variety keeps the game fresh, keeps the dread building because you don't know what will come next. There isn't a formula to the horror that you can learn within a few days. There's a constant barrage of unsettling events that leave you dreading every move you make. The jump scares then are very well earned. I think I experienced like 4 or 5 in 10 hours of playing. It's not spammy or in your face, it's an earned alleviation to the fear the mod creates over hours of gameplay. This specific scare got me so good. I don't think I've been that afraid of a game for years. I know it sounds like glazing, but hours of dread and paranoia finally burst into this, and yeah, I was terrified.
You got me.
But you know I do not like instant death jump scares. Yes, this got me good, but I wish I had some kind of response available to me, even if all it did was delay the inevitable. Then again, I'm willing to be more lenient because this is ARG horror, where the rules can be bent and morphed in the pursuit of paranoia. This isn't exactly a big scary guy that lives within the realm of the game, wherein I should have the ability to respond. This is supposed to be an unknowable entity, not a cave dweller or warden. And to highlight this point, he crashes the game upon my death. These mysterious ARG entities don't need to match the art style of the game, as I've mentioned, because they are inherently outside the game. When creating a horror mod or villain that obeys the rules of Minecraft, you must make it match the style. A huge reason why enemies like the one who watches don't work is because this thing doesn't belong in Minecraft, whilst an enemy like the Wilted does. It's just something you really have to consider when developing horror. Do you want a mysterious entity that is stuck in this game, one that is in Minecraft only by coincidence, or do you want an enemy that suits the world and style, causes dread but not real life paranoia? Both can be scary, but you gotta do it right. I also have to mention that this jump scare was way too loud, it maxed out my volume, and all of them were the same. You do not need to blow out my speakers to scare me, okay? Are you listening? Guys, you do not need to blow out my speakers to scare me. This jump scare would have scared the hell out of me regardless of its volume. It's detrimental to the overall quality of the scare when you're reverting back to the loud equals scary rubbish after understanding horror so well up until this point. Another criticism I have to make is the whole safe mode thing. If you don't enable this setting, the mod will be able to permanently ban you or delete your worlds. And despite me having safe mode on in my first world, I still ended up in this bedrock chamber which I couldn't escape from. It was initially an interesting event, but after running around for over 10 minutes, yeah, it got boring. It is ARG horror, so messing with your worlds like this is understandable, but it doesn't add anything to the fear. Losing a world is not disturbing, it's annoying. Maybe it could be fun to temporarily ban you, and when you rejoin there's a unique event, some sign in your house, something awry, but just throwing worlds away is not scary in the slightest. I did enjoy the large variety of entities in the first 10 hours or so. They were spaced out well, and I especially loved seeing the huge creepy thing that people abuse in the thumbnails, but I lost the footage, so you're just gonna have to believe me on that. It's also worth mentioning that most of these entities do not kill you like the one I encountered in the mines. I would have liked the ability to run from it before being kicked from my game, yes, but at least most encounters are not just death. I do appreciate that. However, here is where my biggest criticism comes in. After hours of gameplay, it started to feel like random entity simulator. The thing is, with ARG horror, there kind of needs to be a story. Vague and abstract, yes, but there need to be dots I can connect, even if it's just like 3 dots. Like 3? Yeah, okay. There must be a line I can follow, some connection between entities, not an explanation, not an info dump, but something that'll make me play on after I've become desensitized to the initial terror. I think this mod has a lot of potential, and I hope the developer continues despite the controversy. I hope they learn from it, and if they're watching this, I hope I made some points that resonate. It was a great experience for a long time. I just wish there was a little more to round it out as an ARG experience. But this mod is the only one I can say stuck with me. It provided lasting fear, an experience I will not forget easily, and I do recommend it for that. Well done, congratulations, this is something special, and I would suggest everyone watching give it a try whenever it's back up. Thank you everyone for watching. Having to build 10,000 Minecraft houses was very tedious. I think I'm gonna need a long break from this game after I get this video out. I'd like to say again that these videos are in no means trying to put down mod creators. It's hard work, and tons of enjoyment has come from mods I personally didn't like, because at the end of the day, these videos are just my opinion. Take everything I say with a huge, humongous grain of salt. But these videos have been doing so much better than I thought they ever would, and that's due to you guys, all your comments, your likes, and your support. I have a lot more content in the works, some Dark Souls 2 and Elden Ring content in particular, and I do talk about it often on Twitch and the Discord, so if you want to come be a part of the community, the links are in the description and the pinned comment if you prefer that method. That's all for today then, so thank you again, remember to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.